gives himself credit for. We had the battleground for game number 2. Figuring out where that is after that last victory. Team 12 is going to be taking us to Infernal Shrines. Gale Force opting for the first pick. Not surprising to see us go to Infernal Shrines. Also, you know, it's been one of the more common map bans for Gale Force Esports in the past. It hasn't been so much as of late. So it's even more, you know, not only one of the biggest strengths I feel like here for Team 12, but then a weakness for Gale Force Esports. Got to be more intimidating after that last game.
They've banned it out before, and this is the second most successful if you look at the win-loss record, as well as the how dominant are you in that kill-death ratio. And this, by far, is their second most dominant if you're on the side of Team 12. So Gale Force has their hands full here as they're down 0-1 in this series.
How will they recover from this? Because the last game, other than the maybe B-Kid staying a little bit too long, you know, things were pretty good for the most part of that last game.
They want my F. See if I guarantee you Team 12 won't let them have it. Maybe they will, though. Maybe they will.
No?
Maybe they won't.
You know, we got a quick answer there for how many maybes were thrown out. See if we land on that first pick Malfurion, or if Gale Force Esports moves in a different direction.
I'm really curious, you know, the priority of that Garrosh on this battleground. You know, it's like one of the stats that I was looking at. Our data pool is a little bit limited because Garrosh post-Clash has kind of been that all of a sudden top-tier warrior that everybody's after. But even in the limited data that we have, his win rate is the lowest on this battleground, and justifiably so. It's hard to get as much value out of Garrosh on this battleground versus others. And as we continue to accumulate more data on these battlegrounds, I think we'll see maybe a continued trend. Garrosh on this battleground has not performed well thus far. And, you know, we'll see how that goes throughout the rest of the season. And we do indeed get that first pick Malfurion.
Get ourselves the Malfurion, but what do we see from Team 12? You could, you know, maybe see the Tracer go in that kind of direction, but we haven't seen Team 12 commit to that nearly as heavy as some of the other teams. They go with a Diablo and a Tychus. Tychus rising in priority, I think, is with the assumption of, hey, if you want a Garrosh, that's going to be a problem. Also, you know, vulnerable, or not vulnerable or susceptible, more so strong against that kind of a Tracer opportunity if Gale Force end up committing to that themselves. Same with Diablo.
Wasn't it yesterday that Gale Force committed to early Tychus
in
this rotation?
Yeah, well, it was actually, we got it in the first pick 2-3, the first game, and then we got it in the 1-2 of the second slot. Yeah.
And especially Shrines, you know, obviously this grenade does a really good job. You can, I mean, they spawn generally in about sets of 10. And so it's one of those things that if you can group them together in any form or fashion, Tychus's grenade is a great finisher to make sure you have control over that. We haven't seen Ragnaros yet since we came back. It's something that on this battleground sometimes does rise a little bit in priority, but teams kind of shying away from that for the moment.
I really like this rotation from Team 12. It seems so out of the norm, but it's very effective against almost every other rotation that you would see from Gale Force. Because normally you'd be like that, looking towards, again, that Tracer or that Garrosh, and it's like, oh, are they going to commit to either one? And both of those kind of go, it looks not that good. You know, Diablo does well with the kill potential. Onto the Garrosh, does pretty well with that. Tychus does well into it. And then Tracer, we've seen what Diablo can do to Tracer. It is a, depending on if you're a Tracer fan or not, a pretty or an ugly sight. I think it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Johanna Malthale.
Well, I'm really curious where Gale Force is going to get their damage.
Yeah.
Junkrat, if you go down that route, I mean, Team 12 could take the Junkrat away, and then where is your damage? Greymane would be your next best option, I think, in terms of damage dealers, although that could easily also go to Team 12. And I'm curious if Team 12 would play around that, take away some of the primary damage dealers. Hanzo in this battleground, the same way that I said Garrosh doesn't get as much value out of his kit. Hanzo on this one, I talked about it earlier, this is his lowest win rate map by far. He is in the bottom tier of win rates on Infernal Shrines in terms of like your general ranged heroes. So if you want to let that through or ban it, I would say play around that, but they're just going to take it away.
I think if anything came, you know, from the ban side there, Team 12, like from to my mind, would have been, I know this might seem weird in this type of circumstance, but it would have been the Genji. Mainly because we see a Malthale without a Garrosh picked up on the other side. We have the option to move into Tormented Souls. This is one of the better maps for Tormented Souls. And Tormented Souls, though it hasn't been, you know, the hot or the go-to for the most part for Malthale, it used to be, and I would argue still is, one of the best AoE preps for a Genji Dragon Blade into getting a reset in some way, shape, or form. Yes, Last Rites can better increase that first reset, but the second and third are much less likely. And, you know, I wouldn't mind if they went with that, but not going against that, and it's still something that Gale Force might end up picking in the back half. It's a little awkward with the Johanna and the Malfurion. It's like, wait, I don't have a warrior with me, nor do I have a support that can keep me alive, so makes it a bit harsher. It might be part of the justification there with the Hanzo. Really like that Sonya ban from Gale Force Esports, but not too surprising either, considering the map.
Well, we see the Sonya ban, and now you're starting to look at other warriors or another frontliner. And obviously Blaze, we're not sure where he lies with some of these teams. But also I wonder if we might get the Tyrael. You mentioned the potential Tormented Souls. You talked about the AoE, you know, kind of damage, but this gives you the AoE protection. And sometimes we saw a little bit of it yesterday in a really crazy, strong comp, aggressive comp. But the Tyrael Diablo goes way, way back, as you were talking about. If anybody missed it yesterday, he was talking about the whole sanctification with the lightning breath. But we get the Blaze. We're just full fire today.
Full fire today. I'm happy Blaze shows himself here. I really am. How big of an impact, we're yet to find out. Might even get ourselves a combustion. Who knows? That seems a little bold, I know. Especially into the Malthael Tormented Soul Sphere we were just talking about.
I feel like the Caterpillar combustion that he had on Infernal Shrines in the earlier part of the year, it feels like that can never be topped. It was literally max value, 5-person combustion that just put the nail in the coffin. And you're like, I don't know if you'll ever see that topped. I mean, there's going to have to be like just this epic moment for the most epic prize where that could ever top that. It was so incredible.
Jay-How, if all of our professional players decided to select their heroics based on the probability of creating highlight reel, I feel like we'd get a lot more wild. Think about how many shock and awes we've been missing all in the past.
Now that you mention it, we just go Tyrael Falstad in this rotation.
Here we
Bam,
go.
We're done.
That's it.
They do go Junkrat Greymane.
I really wish one of those was a Genji, or definitely a Genji, actually, for that matter. Just something with a reset and higher explosiveness. I don't feel like Greymane is enough of that, but I know Genji's on the struggle, you know, kind of department right now. And it's kind of hard to look at him and go, this is the time and the place, but if you're going to go with that kind of squishy-oriented composition, if you're going to open up the fight, I want you to open it up. And I feel like Greymane is, again, more focused on that single-target kill rather than anything like, but it provides a lot of opportunities for threat both to the front and back end of Team 12's comp.
And I'm trying to figure out a way that they can find that isolation. You know, we've seen some of these teams, because Alex Stronza, obviously your heals come in a little bit differently, especially if you're trying to go into that big circle AoE healing. But we look at the fact that if they can get a setup, and I'm trying to figure out how they can get that, they have to isolate a hero, get the potential cursed bullet into the last rites. That's kind of been the go-to in terms of the way some of the people are using that isolation when they have the Malthael and the Greymane, especially since the last rite changes. I don't see those opportunities coming as easy because Johanna doesn't have the same type of displacement as like a Garrosh, which generally you're tossing them back, maybe get them into a root. So Alex Stronza might still be in range to save that hero.
Yeah, she might be still in range. Either way, we have game number 2 ready for you guys here. Infernal Shrines between Team 12 and Gale Force Esports. A lot of poke damage, a lot of prepping, and an interesting comp once again from Gale Force Esports. If one thing has been learned this week, I feel like for GFE, the answer is they enjoy their Junkrat now. Apparently that's a part of the new arsenal here for GFE.
I mean, when you watch teams like Team Dignitas and a player like Snitch do it, I think it probably instills confidence that you want to play it too, because it looks awfully darn good when some of our EU counterparts pick up the Junkrat.
Interesting laning choice already from GFE, committing with the tri-lane top. They should commit to that minion wave before it even starts. This is one of those we accept we have no kill potential in the 4, so we're going to try and offset one of the lane paces in order to kind of match you. They aren't going to do that. Instead, running with a essentially 1-1-1 with a 2-man gang squad anchoring in case there's going to be over amount of threat towards the top half.
I like to time my iron skins right before Diablo shadow charges me too. It looks cooler that way.
This is very curious. from Gale Force Esports. They waited until they saw the commitment to the bottom lane before willing to show anybody on the top half and then all in the turrets. I can't tell if I'm like next level impressed or if I feel like this was a bit greedy and Team 12 not capitalizing, because there was 2 members that hadn't shown for about 45 seconds, and it's not like that had a lot of kill potential. Team 12, though, didn't commit to the pressure on the front wall and bottom. That is the counterplay to this, right? Is you identify that and you get the siege faster than Team 12. They are going to get it now, but that is one of those a little bit, you know, late, and they had a full wave, 30 seconds, 45 seconds even for that matter, where they could have gotten a little bit more damage. At the end of the trade, it is near dead even, though, for the 2 teams.
Holding on here, obviously still another minute and a half away before our first Shrine phase is underway. You know, Alex Straza, we tend to see her pop up here on Infernal Shrines. Getting that Dragon Queen form around the Shrines does give you that good AoE damage, gives you a lot of control around that. We've seen a lot of teams try that on this battleground to mixed success, but overall good results in terms of Alex Straza's individual performance.
Even on Infernal Shrines, I'm on the skeptical Alex Straza department, I'll be honest. It's not a game where I look at the opponent's compositions and go, that's enough to totally kind of bamboozle or make that overly difficult, but purely off of her, you know, the healing on the ground alone and forcing that kind of territorial clumping, it makes me a little bit hectic or a little bit scared whenever she ends up getting selected. It'll be better post-10 with the Blaze, having the bunker and being able to throw it out there in that downtime. But it's Buds here for Team 12. One of the best supports, if not the best support in North America.
Got a 100% win rate on Alex Straza in that one whole game, Dread. Woo! Clearly.
She is the meta.
You know, the one thing I like about Johanna on this map, we kind of see the level 4 talent going into the Condemn, the Eternal Retribution, allowing you to get the cooldown on your Condemn. By Cure. He was way out there. Yeah, well, unless he got moved by a concussion mine.
He was way up above Chase for a long period of time, and then it was a concussion mine into, yeah, I'm not making out of this, am I?
Might as well turn on him. But yeah, getting that value out of that, you get the cooldown reduction on your Condemn depending on how many enemies are hit. Yeah, as I say, you can't stand there for very long.
Eyes in the Dark is pretty neat talent. Turns out can drop aggro from the forts there for anybody who did not understand what just functioned. Use the disengage. Clean play there from Biggie.
Another good use of Iron Skin, making sure you don't get flipped back over there. We're going to see the rest of this wall fall here. Gale Force continuing their early game aggression. This is something that we, again, have seen from this team quite a bit as they try and be aggressive early. And right now, they're just going to trade off here. Getting the fort wall, I mean, obviously, generally a Punisher in the early game is going to get a fort wall. If he gets more than that, then obviously you're getting much more value. So it's up to Team 12 to really try and, you know, kind of cancel things out of the favor of Gale Force.
Gale Force now making the rotation up. 12 skeletal defenders away for Team 12. It's kind of convenient. They're likely going to be able to pick this up. Gale Force, it seems like they're asking too much. Huge jet propulsion. Diablo going to get the follow-up. Condemn actually buying a bit of time, but Malfurion already removed from this world here for Gale Force Esports. Justing staying on top of the heel. B-Kid getting tracked down by Goku on that Blaze. 2 for nothing, and Team 12 got that Punisher right behind them.
Dread, I remember the very first event I worked with you.
Yeah.
It was DreamHack Austin. And that was that 2 or 3 years? It was a long time ago, right? And I remember we sat down at breakfast and we were talking about it. We were highlighting MVP Black. And one of the things that they were doing that we were noting was their Diablo play on Infernal Shrines. The number one thing you think about Diablo is he's an aggressive hero. But a lot of what they did was simply wait for opportunities. They didn't create the opportunity. They waited for you to step out a half step too far on the shrine. That's exactly what Team 12 did. Obviously, they used that opportunity to bring Blaze up. But Diablo is not the aggressor on shrines when you see these big-time plays. He looks for that opportunity that you give him. And, you know, they would kind of play around that axis of the shrine, and then he would just kind of stand around that middle area, flip somebody over, and then get the shadow charge. But if you have that extra dive buddy like you have in Blaze, then you don't have to be the initiator. You don't have to be the aggressor. You can be that second man to help set up the finish, and that's exactly what Team 12 just did.
Yeah, and Diablo, honestly, the only reason he dropped him priority on a map like Infernal Shrines is because they nerfed the wave clear on his level 4. He used to have shrine control single-handedly at level 4, but all the other perks of Diablo are still there when it comes to Infernal Shrines in the early game. Probably the best, you know, warrior when it comes to damage output, or not damage output, but at least kill potential over that first shrine with how much easy crowd control, and it's reliable, right? And the worst part about Diablo is that reliable crowd control normally comes at the I'm creating distance for my opponent from my team, so my follow-up damage isn't there. Those shrine walls are always so conveniently close. It's just making sure, you know, the rest of the team is there to make it happen, and Team 12, they look good with it right here with that Diablo so far. Goku, maybe out a little bit too far here without heroics picked up and knowing a beacon moved in the last right. If last rights, I'd say maybe a kill potential in that gank, but again, heroicless Gale Force Esports is going to suffer because there's adjusting flanking.
Blockface has got to get out of there. He gets flipped back, but barely dodges that APOC. Justin, now he does have diabolical momentum. Not able to get any auto attacks in for the cooldown, but you know, I love the play that Team 12 made after that when they picked up the 10 and had their heroics. They moved bot lane. The next shrine phase is going to be that bottom. Now, normally you're looking at, all right, this is going to spawn 7-8 minutes in, and you think, all right, if you win the Punisher at this round, you're getting a fort, maybe a keep wall if you can push it, but that keep wall is already down. We could be looking at a potential early keep in this game.
Yeah, and at that point in time, when you get an early keep like that on Inferno Shrines, it puts you in a position to really choke out your opponents. Especially for Team 12, knowing that they have, you know, at least the Blaze to kind of better prep that side wall. Or side lane, excuse me. Goku doing a bit of that right now with the 1 versus 4 Fog War up in the top half.
Yeah, but while they're playing down there, you can actually see Tychus and Jaina continuing to prep that bottom lane. Recognize they don't want to stay too long because they don't have eyes on those members. But I really wonder what Gale Force's call is going to be. I mean, level 13 is going to be here for Team 12. You know, obviously they're looking to try and get a pick here, but if you don't get this pick, you know, what's your backup option? What's your plan B? Because you can't afford to continue to give that push in the bottom lane. There's absolutely no way, because if you try and push in that top lane and you give up that Punisher, I mean, that's a keep going down guaranteed. So their call here is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, it would have been ideally invading that Shaman camp right there that Team 12 ends up picking up. It's the only objective remaining on the map that you can make a rotation that would be informationless, and it would be before the 13 Talontier hits. It's not like compositionally you would be too afraid of the territorial spells, especially with APOC just now coming off cooldown. But 13 is here for Team 12. 10 skeletal defenders for Gale Force as they get the early start. Odin dropped.
Use the Odin clear and then look for the Dragon Queen to follow that up in time. Right now they're on the catch-up. Still behind is Team 12 in the Skeletal Defender race. Starting to catch up just a little bit as Odin still has a little bit of time left. Justin going in. Good cleanse there onto Fury, and the concussion mine has put Justin out of position. Tranquility's used as Fury is the only one low there, so the rest of the team unable to engage, and now they're falling back in Team 12 with the lead.
32 skeletal defenders, 8 more are going to be necessary. Riptire goes out, can it steal the last bunch? It'll steal a lot, but now only 2 are needed. Justin caught out in the corner, drops the APOC, keeps himself alive for a bit longer, as he's just going to be stuck and locked in by Gale Force Esports, but Jaina getting all of that damage over the wall, able to not only get the first kill, setting up every single one from that point on for Team 12. Dansky dominating there on the Jaina.
Icy Veins came in play because I'm like, there's a Blizzard. Oh, there's another Blizzard. Icy Veins popped there, getting that mega cooldown reduction. You know, Diablo died. That's terrible, but it was a 5-for-1 trade or 4-for-1 trade. But Diablo had souls. He's already back up. This Punisher's here. Akaface has to bait that as far up as he possibly can. You just keep running with that thing. You do not turn to auto attack it, right?
I mean, it's trying to get baited and not going to make its way all the way to the middle keep. It's on its way to the core now. Condemn going to move up. Punisher leap onto Malfurion. Diablo trying to find Big E. Unable to get the flip away. Punisher just about to leap here in another couple of seconds. Team 12 not putting on any pressure. Not going to matter. Core still stands.
3-man stun, unleashing some haymakers there. But now Team 12 has turned their attention rapidly over here to the middle lane. Prep those waves. They're going to have the minions here. 1 tower down. Level 15, almost level 16. Don't quite get that tower. Wouldn't have been enough to get them 16, but they are well ahead in this race, Dread, that they can afford to just kind of rotate, take a little bit, and continue, as you said earlier, to choke their opponents out.
I think that sentence could have been stopped at. They can afford. They can really about anything beyond that point with the lead that we see here from Team 12. Having that bottom keep available with this type of, you know, 2.5 level lead with that 16 talent here, it really just kind of goes, it's way too much. But taking a look at that replay, just staying alive as long as possible. Well, over that wall, there is a double Blizzard rotation, hitting a, double stacks onto B-Kid, then look at that. There's the second one, hitting 3 people, getting the slows, even confirming the last kill there. You know, the Ice Mage, it turns out she's pretty strong. She's pretty big deal. Pure, though. Good night, man.
The Ring of Frost in response. It's a little bit of a desperate move there by Dansky, but Justin, he gets the flip. He gets the blow up there as he does have the reset. One has overpowered, so a 1-for-1 now. Let's see if Goku can get somebody locked down.
He's 100% dead unless somebody gets help to him. When Jaina hits a single Ice Lance, you are going down. Akaface getting flipped after that APOC. Even Justin not even going back to confirm that kill, going, no, I want more here. Alex looking to make it rain with that damage and slash heals. Biggie will have a disengage in about 2. Jet Propulsion, not going to be thrown out for Goku.
Looks like they're just going to go up and take their Shaman camp. I think right now, if they can, I mean, with the 16 talent tier advantage, I don't think that they need to be overly aggressive, but I would not be surprised if they just try and push this in, get a little bit of keep wall damage, maybe look for a second keep when it does come to the next Punishers. They're going to sit on this for the moment.
This is actually really well done. So, for instance, if you, okay, so you get that Shaman camp right there with the 16 talents here, and you're not going to make anything happen with it. But if you prep these minion waves even just a little bit, granted, they're going for a double Shaman, so this is even more important that they get the stall out on that. It's just the biggest thing is if you see that immediately get capped, it gets cleared for nothing. It's just going to be like, thank you for the time. Now it's going to be members of Team 12 with this first camp, then with the second camp, all with the 16 talents here. Maybe even get Junkrat forcing out the cleanse. Great job from Akaface. A cooldown they're going to want on their side, though.
The fact that that keep wall was already down, they might actually use Odin to confirm this. Although you normally want to save Odin for that, but Justin going in, continuing to just annihilate people. He just charged him into the bunker.
Able to get the follow-up there, and the devastating charge gets another kill here for Justin and friends. 10-3 entirety of this game. Goku goes in, able to have to back out here after that pressure not landing. Top keep drops. Team 12, what do? Find another. Mikey Doll seems to be the focus. Jet Propulsion not going to go off before the concussion mine, but they're going to go for core. Odin is here, and they want this, J-How.
Greymane just now Hearth back. He's going to join the fray, but not before the shields go down, and with 2 members already down on the side. Justin continuing to make plays. Biggie under assault, as is the core. 60% falling. Cleansing Flames are out. That should be enough as the Ring of Frost and Dansky continuing to do work.
Dansky will end up dropping here, but it just feels like it's going to be too late. 20%, 10%. It's over. It's just how long do they want to wait, really?
Just hang out in the bunker.
As much bunker value as you possibly can. Team 12 looking dominant here against Gale Force Esports. Giving up pretty much nothing that entire game. And I feel like that camp moment didn't really mean a lot. And it won't mean a lot for maybe, you know, majority of fans at home. But that camp moment and just thinking about everything that they were doing from beginning to end of that game goes, is this the best? Can we get more out of this? Can we be doing it different? And Team 12 was, you know, they're very, I want to say self-aware. They never autopilot is the biggest thing. They're always going like, what can we do? How can we make sure we get the most efficient thing out of our camps? And it's that kind of stuff that I feel like when you look at Team 12, you just go, they're so close to being like a very, very good team, you know, in an international scope, just obviously not only within North America.
My favorite thing to kind of go to your point is a good friend of mine and a Dormcaster. His name's Haloran. You guys know him. He says what, right? And you use that as an acronym. What happens after this? So like when you're picking up stuff, it's like, what happens after this? What am I doing with this camp? So to go to your point, Team 12 is very much thinking what in this circumstance, and using that acronym is, what do we do with this? What happens after this? And Team 12 has all the right answers when it comes to that map.
They really do so far. And we're going to go to a quick commercial break. But when we come back, we will have game number 3 as we sit at match point between Team 12 and GFE.